Mere mortals. Mere mortalites, welcome back. We are tired, but we are the mere mortals. You've got Juan here.
Tired and tired over here as well.
Now, this is the second take we're doing this because Juan, in his sleep-deprived state, has obviously turned off the microphone. Good, but thank you very much, Dad, for calling me. Mum messaged me. Peter sending messages as well, and everyone else who was trying to fix this up. 16th of March, 2025. Musings, we want to talk about. I think the title of this is like media.
I think I said fear and flee the Brisbane Cyclone.
Flee the Brisbane Cyclone. Something about the media. Look, part of this, what I'll be talking about in Musings. In Musings is we try to go a deep particular topic, try to go a little bit lighthearted. We'll try to keep it even more lighthearted because both of us are pretty wrecked for the week that's been. But I'll get into the heavier topic of the cyclone and why I wanted to talk about it. Some things did occur in my property. Ooh, you know, what truly happened. Was it bad? Was it good? But I'll get to some lighthearted stuff because I want to talk about, I did say media, but in general, I guess is the information, the way that we consume information in the expected versus the actual and the reality. But I've got two little lighthearted fun things. So the first one, I keep sort of saying like, oh man, I'm supremely tired. I'm wrecked. And it is indeed. So if I said to you as like information, if you didn't know me, I said, wow, like I'm really tired. I'm exceedingly tired. There's like, I haven't been sleeping well for a whole week. That was kind of like the headline of the news article and whatnot. You would say, okay, that's maybe catastrophizing a little bit, maybe towards the extreme. If I looked at the actual, weirdly enough, on my app to see like my sleep behavior, yes, it's been worse than what I've been sleeping the last few months, but I'll say it's 15% worse, 10% worse. It's not like I'm completely lost all realms of sleep. It's like, you're still finding it in there somewhere. And to top it all off, just before this as well. So I mentioned to you before this podcast, hey, I wanted to change it to 9:30. Why? I had a run plan with a mate of mine, Toph. We were going to do catch up with the kids to go as well. My daughter's sick. She's not sleeping. I'm not sleeping. I was supposed to go do a training session at midday as well with someone new, my partner's sister's boyfriend. And I was like, I'm going to go do that as well. Let me have something in the afternoon. Cancelled all of it. Fuck it. I was like, nah, I'm too wrecked. I'm not going to do anything today apart from this podcast. But before this podcast, I went downstairs and I still ran 7 kilometers on the treadmill. And I felt, ready for this? It was easy. It was like the easiest run I've done in such a long time. And I was like, what the hell, man? Like, you know, it's very much maybe what I expected. It was going to be like, this is going to be the hardest thing, horrible. And in actuality, okay, it wasn't that. And so I felt better from it. And then sometimes, again, trying to connect it to this media landscape and whatnot, if you see this expectation from media or information, like, oh, this is going to be the worst thing ever, like batten down the hatches. And then when it comes along and it either doesn't meet it or does meet it, obviously changes the way that we perceive it. So that's one. The other one, because it literally just came through, it was from our friend, Astro Joey. I was asking him, what is it with Canberra dominating the Broncos, Joey? Now, the Canberra Raiders, NRL team, Broncos, Brisbane Broncos, so it's like sort of where we live. I haven't watched a single NRL game at all. In fact, I just saw like the score because someone else posted about it. That's the only reason I asked it. And he came back and replied, yes, Canberra are on a mission. Just the media was saying we could come last. Now it's going crazy. So again, here's a comparison where the media's gone for the Canberra Raiders and said, they're going to be last. Terrible. What a joke. Now, I don't know what inputs, like again, I haven't followed it closely at all now for so many years in saying like they're going to be terrible. On the opposite side, Brisbane Broncos, I guess where they are right now in the years, they're good. They should be like a top of the table team, but here you go competing, and for whatever reason, Canberra's dominated them or beaten them, right? And so again, that from looking at it in terms of media or information, it's okay. Yes, one thing may be placed out in terms of news or somebody saying something, but the reality, the actual versus the expectation, at least for media, always seems to miss the mark, and sometimes more than less, I guess I would say. And so that's then what leads me into cycling. So I want to ask you, first of all, Karen, before, was it Alfred?
Yeah.
Alfred.
Yeah,
before
Alfred.
Cyclone Alfred decided to grace us with his presence, had you listened to much of the cyclone or the information that was coming across in the media at all?
No. So I don't consume much news media nowadays anyway. So I get my sources secondhand from other people, and that still works pretty well, to be honest. You know, I found out
if it's important, you'll get told
2 days before it came. plenty enough time to prepare if you needed to. Maybe some people needed more than 2 days, but it was just told like secondhand from someone, probably brother or brother's girlfriend, and I did. And what was my perception secondhand of that was, this is going to be a big one. Like it's going to come.
Was it because
hit Brisbane directly?
Because you absorbed it that way, or because they told it?
That is what they were telling me
Okay,
was going to happen.
Okay.
And especially my brother's girlfriend, because she's Colombian, she hasn't been here before, so she's never been through a cyclone. I guess I've technically caught the tail end of one when I went up to Mackay and for the first time, and so arrived there during the cyclone, I think. And I was just like, it's just going to be windy and a bit of rain, nothing too crazy. I don't know if it's kind of like COVID, where is it, the first time we hear about it, it's just like, it's just going to be a thing. Like, it'll blow over soon, probably won't affect me that much. Well, that turned out to be terribly wrong. And maybe I should have listened to more, and I just got lucky this time that nothing bad happened to me. So I kind of think you can be in a vulnerable spot with being too laissez-faire, too like easygoing, it'll be fine sort of thing, when there are certainly times you should have a bit more caution, but the harder bit is finding out when are those times when you need to
pay attention.
Pay attention. And I think there's probably ones where it's like even just reasonable common sense. Where we've been at before in heavy rains, I actually don't think the rain was even that heavy during this whole cyclone compared to other rains we've had.
True. Yeah, I vouch for that. Yep.
It has had like a little bit of water in our garage, but that's just in a really, really local minimal low spot. And other than that, we haven't had any flooding or anything. So it's like, well, it hasn't come close before. So is this one, if this one does happen, is it going to be like catastrophic? We're waist deep in water in our house, or is it just going to be like some minor inconveniences of maybe water entering and under the doors and have us having to deal with that? So I think there is probably circumstances where you could be, say you've changed place, so you move to a new place here. Now one's up on a hill. Like, does one need to worry about flooding here? Probably not. Most of the flooding concerns about the cyclone would be totally irrelevant.
That's correct. Even though, there's a golf course that's maybe 500 meters away from me across the road, like the main road, and on that, part of a water body goes from the quarry out towards main river areas, and that heavily flooded, like heavy flooded, and a lot of energy got cut off around that area. But for our area, there was energy cut-offs, but the water ran off pretty well, which I was like, "Well, this is pretty amazing." But and to tell a little bit later, the wind is what actually got us.
So there's kind of ones where it's like, okay, well, you'll hear a lot of stuff about you've got to prepare for this is going to happen, etc., and there's probably only like 2 out of 20 things which are relevant to you. Which would be power cutting off and maybe being careful of the wind. And maybe flooding in your local area. So even though you might not be affected right here,
it might be the surrounding
one street leading out of your place could get flooded. And so that could be a problem. So there's certainly like things to think about. But when you're just blasted with this non-stop coverage for those who don't know, who weren't here, I doubt there was much coverage of any other news for the 2 days beforehand and the 2 days afterwards of anything other than just cyclone.
The cyclone stuff. Yeah.
So you certainly get, I don't know, is it overrepresented? For my life, if I was watching the news and I watched that, it would be an overrepresentation of what actually occurred to me during my life. It would be disproportionate.
Yeah. So like, and I think the reason why I talk about it is there was a few things. So in like kind of in the lead up to the event of getting the cyclone or the wind and the rain that came through once again, since I've decided to not pay attention to news as much. Again, I talked about it on the podcast ages ago where I went through this phase there. Every morning I was checking like financial reviews and this and the Russian news and the Chinese news and stuff like that to keep up. That's long gone now, but that coming up, for whatever reason, I started going, oh, I need to pay attention. I started checking some, like even just Googling about the cyclone, being like, okay, what are they saying? At least for all the social media platforms, I'm sure everyone kind of like locally was getting this, everything was just about the cyclone, about either what was happening or what was getting destroyed or what was coming or what time. I even found myself going onto, I think it's windy.com. You can go windy.com. It'll show you like live tracking of all the wind in the world. Really? And you could like focus in on what time it'll do this and whatnot. So nice. the anticipation was building up, I guess, in the lead up to it. And for me as well, the way I found out as well was I was at the shops. I was at Aldi, a local Aldi, and I was walking around. It was 5 days before it was supposed to hit, and I wasn't aware of it at all. Because like all of a sudden, everyone was just buying everything from the shelves. And I was like, this is odd. What's going on? Like, why is it so busy? Why can't I get a banana? Where's the bread gone?
Sure.
And I was going through the aisle, and everyone was like full trolleys. I was done a couple of things. I asked like an older lady who was behind me. I was like, well, everyone's doing like big shopping on a Monday. Like, what's going on? She was like, I've got to prepare. They've run out of water bottles for this cyclone. And I was like, what? I was like, cyclone? What's going on? So that's when I kind of like looked into it and was like, oh, okay. Now, for me, it's not just me. It's also looking after like food for daughter, stuff like that.
Yeah, the thing that confuses me is why is it not the non-perishables, the things that you'd actually want?
Why is everyone...
There's still tons of tin food. You're not going to struggle with tin food. You're not going to struggle with rice.
Well,
it's apples and stuff that'll go off immediately.
One post I saw, like kind of comment on Instagram, that was like, man, some people out there like must be like shitting 24/7 with the amount of toilet paper that they're taking home and stuff like that. Like, it's nuts.
It's because the thing that you should probably reasonably be worried about is the refrigerator turning off. So you're buying all of this stuff, which
just for it to go to waste.
It'll just go out. Yeah. It'll go off immediately. Yeah. I don't understand.
Don't panic buy. Don't panic buy. But so I kind of saw that, and then again, there's how I'm not as probably oblivious as you are to like general media, but I'm like unaware to most regards. I then was like, oh damn, I booked my parents a Tangalooma holiday for the weekend of the cyclone, for them to go and like swim with dolphins and enjoy the holiday. So of course I then had to proceed to call, but I got lucky, mere mortalites, because it was within 7 days. So 7 days or more, you can get a full refund, full rescheduling, all good. No concerns. But if it's within 7 days, you lose your money.
Sure.
You got to pay for it again, all that sort of stuff. So I called them, and it was 5 days. It was basically 5 days from the holiday. So I called them up. I was like, look, heard the cyclone's coming. Looks like you probably like, I was like, look, the ferries are not even going to be working, let alone, getting someone out there or like being around, blah, 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 blah. And thankfully I was on the call, the lady on the phone, and I try to be as nice as possible. Lady on the phone was like, oh, we just got a message from our group or whatever about starting to let people know that we have to do changes and whatnot. If you want, I can reschedule it right now for you, no charge. And I was like, yes, thank goodness, because like everyone would have had to get rescheduled to another time. And if I called a couple of days later, or if they sent an email, I probably would have to reschedule them for like winter. Sure. So I was able to schedule them in a couple of weeks' time. So I was like,
that's good.
Awesome. So going into it, I was kind of like unaware, but...
And knowing your parents, I thought they would have maybe been willing to risk it.
Well, I messaged them. And I was like, hey guys, like, I've actually, like, I'm reaching out to the place to actually get it like changed, because and they were like, oh, we weren't thinking about telling you this. Or, like tomorrow we went to go see you to see if like, maybe we had to change it or whatnot. But yeah, they knew about it. But we're like, oh, well, I guess we'll just go to the cyclone and go exactly. Like in the middle of it. I was like, man, what the hell? So in any case,
swim with the dolphins up in the sky.
Like, right from the beginning, like even like a couple of days out from an event, let's just say, like we weren't aware as much, but obviously you were getting it told from people. I started then like tuning in and listening in, and I think this was the bit I guess I wanted to talk about, was it then starts elevating your expectations. So my expectations started going to, whoa, what's going to happen if it's a Cat 2? What if we go to like Category 3? Well, Category 3 is like 160, 170 kilometers per hour winds. I started doing some mathematical calculations, if you will, in Modern Lights, because I did a quick check, and then the Australian standards for how you build buildings in Brisbane, at least, because it's a Group B or Category B area of Australia. They only design buildings to about 200 kilometers per hour. That's in like what you design to. You'd probably build them to like 210, 220. But it's like, ooh, what if it like picks up even more energy, gets Cat 4? Man, you're going to have like buildings falling apart because you don't build them in Brisbane to that effect. So I was like, whoa, this is going to be crazy. Okay, now, long story short, didn't get Category 4. In fact, I went from Category 2 down to 1, down to tropical storm, basically, to a low. So it didn't go that way, went the other way. So like, I started going, okay, well, my expectations setting into like, oh, this is going to be crazy. As we drove through some suburbs around here, people were boarding up their windows, people were putting sandbags everywhere. So I was, we started, me and my partner, we're like, are we not preparing enough? Like, what's going on? Like, we think it'll be like, okay, pretty stormy and got to be watch out for it and have food at home, but I don't think we're preparing overly as much for what's about to come. So some of that panic sets in. And then the actual, what happened, I'll get quickly to actually what happened. I want to find out what happened in your area. But for us, cyclone hit. It was supposed to be like Thursday night, but it was so slow that it ended up hitting properly on Saturday. I think for some areas it was like Friday night, for others it was Saturday night. For us on the Saturday night, it was lots of rain, but it was predominantly the wind, and it was the fact that we had just lots of trees around our area that just started falling. But like supremely lucky for us, 3 big, it wasn't tree, but like big branches of the tree fell down. 2 of them landing, a meter away from the home. The other one about 5 meters away from the home. But then one of them, by like sheer luck, the way that I must visualize it is that it snapped off, bounced off like the fence, and then bounced into our roof. And it took, to give you an idea of how much there was, I think it took about maybe like 2 and a bit hours between me, Dad, and my partner to like cut it all up, to put it into position. Dragging it down took like another hour.
You did it yourself?
Yeah, we did it ourselves. I called SES, which is the emergency service line that can get you to help out. Which go get your website fixed, because I applied for them to come out at like 4 a.m. At about 6 a.m, I was like, okay, they're probably not going to come. All I wanted to help is just to get it off the roof, basically. So then I went out there in the rain to cut it down myself off the roof, just in case I was like creating any issues. I cancelled it at that point, and they called me at like 3 p.m. SES to say, oh, hey, we're on our way. We'll be there in 5 minutes. Okay. At that point, I've already chopped this tree down. So I was like, oh, no, I cancelled it like this morning. Like I've got the my approval email saying you've cancelled it. Like, oh, we'll cancel it for you then. And I was like, okay, I guess. So obviously, SES, you need to go fix that up. But yeah, then we actually had to get someone out to come and pick it up and take it away, because it ended up filling, Joey's van, like an electrician's van. It filled up that entire van, and there was still more stuff that was kind of like left to the side. So in the end, for us, it was like, we lost power only for 24 hours or so. Yes, we had trees come down. Yes, it was scary, because I guess when it was happening, it was like, oh my God, like, is it going to get worse? Is it going to fall in the house? Is water going to create some damages? But in the end, I guess the build up to it, what everyone was saying, like, oh, it's going to be so ridiculously bad, or at least what the picture that was painted that was going to happen to me was, oh my God, we need to have food for like a week. We might need to like leave to go to a hotel. I knew people who left their home and went to Hamilton Island for the week until like the cyclone had gone past. Stuff like that. Like people were like leaving. So I was like, man, it was going to be like catastrophic. In reality for us, it was a couple of trees went down. Yes, we lost power. Our fridge was out for about 24 hours. We, like the good Samaritans that don't really understand what's going on, still ate the food that was in there, including yogurt. We fed our daughter yogurt. She was sick the entire night and threw up everywhere. We're like,
is that why she's sick?
That's why she was sick then. Now she's sick for whatever other reason. So yeah, learning, don't eat the yogurt that's been left out.
Oh, come on, man.
But then, in the end, like the reality is, it's like, you know what? I probably over expected by 70% what was going to happen. The reality was 20%, 30%. Yes, it did pay to probably prepare enough. Yes, I didn't want to be left, because the shops near us completely like lost power for like a couple of days, and I tried to go to the shop. So it happened on Saturday. I tried to go to the shops on Monday to get food for the fam, and there was still barely anything at the shops. So it wasn't really until like Wednesday that I was able to properly get some food for the family, and even places like McDonald's and stuff were either closed or were so full you couldn't even get into them. So yes, pace and prepare, but sometimes, especially when it's the way it usually gets presented in media with these sort of things, is they will overblow it. They'll over consider what may occur to what, well, it's fear, feeds the news. It feeds the eyeballs for you to actually keep on checking and feeding into the, well, I've got to be checking because if I don't check, I'm going to miss out something critical that I need to know. Again, though, there were places, because, the actual cyclone, like it was like something like 250,000 people lost power, or like houses lost power. I knew people who, their like bottom of the floors, they get flooded. Some people who like lost power for quite a few days. So not to say like it was just a fear, like, I'm sure it did hit people, and it did hit people like really, really hard, but it was probably a more select few than the apocalyptic way that the media might have been telling it and being like, everybody like absolutely take the high ground before you get flooded away. Like, okay, that did not happen. It wasn't like everyone get into Noah's Ark, the world's resetting.
Yeah.
No.
If you want a visual representation, check out some of our old videos of, just type in Brisbane flooding. And there was one that we did probably during the like
peak
crazy
of 2021.
Was it 21 or 22? I can't remember, but there was.
I think it was 2021 floods.
It was storming really hard, and
off in the park.
Yeah, we're out in the park filming, and then a couple of days later, we went by the Brisbane River. You couldn't see the river from there, but you just got the feeling in the air of what we're talking about here.
Honestly, and I guess for if you're so inclined to go watch, go back to those videos where it's raining and we're outdoors. It was probably raining that hard. That's how hard it was raining during like the cycle. Maybe even less.
I reckon it was harder then.
Than it was. Yeah. So I've seen it rain harder. It was just a more prolonged amount of rain. But if I would be ashamed though, and this is another part. I would think I would be ashamed if I said, yeah, I've been through a cyclone, and then you go talk to someone who's been like Cyclone Katrina in the US, or
that was a hurricane, but
same thing.
Our friend Manchel was like his girlfriend was freaking out. She's like, we got to do this, we got to do that, got a sandbag, got to do the, and he's from Fiji, and so he was saying like, wake me up when it's category 3 sort of deal. And yeah, sure enough, they had some minor problems as well, and the sandbags did come in handy for the little bit of flooding that they had. But honestly, like you could have probably just used towel instead. And it certainly, just for me, it's funnily enough, it solved as many problems as it created. So the big effects, I guess, one, the gym was closed, so I had to spend 2 days indoors, which was not super fun. So that was just straight up negative. But the actual effects, we had a little leak in our roof, so there was a little water dripping down. Okay. But the rain also washed my car. So, net negative, that's probably about the same. There was a little bit of water that tried to flood in one of our side doors because we hadn't cleaned up.
Did you try fix it? Hold on. Did you try fix the roof?
We haven't done that yet, no.
Okay. Do you want to hear a real Colombian story of my parents?
Yeah, sure.
Here we go. Sunday morning, so it's still raining, still windy. I get this message from mum and dad, and they're like, there's a like water dropping from the roof, right?
Yeah.
It's still like the bloody storm's still going. It's like, I can't remember if it was early morning or like late night, but they were like, there's water coming through. And I was like, man, you're gonna have to get some, dry it down. You're probably gonna have to get someone to come out and take a look at it. Then I get these subsequent messages. I don't think I got this exactly right, mum and dad. You can
in the attic.
But no, they went in the attic, dude. They went in the attic. My dad climbed the roof of the house during the bloody storm, with my mum trying to go along with him. They stepped on a table that had glass, broke the glass.
Oh no!
But my dad went up there with like a tarp and covered the roof with the place that was going through, and then like came back down out of it, and he took a selfie afterwards to send us, be like, put the tarp up, like table broken or whatever else. I don't know exactly how you guys broke it. I haven't seen it yet. And I was like, man, like nice. I think my sister messaged me like, look, next time you want to do that, like maybe like ask someone else as well to come and help out.
Sure.
I know my mum and dad, this will never end. They'll be like 90 years old and they'll still be doing this, right? But yeah, so don't do that, folks, in the storm. Please don't do that. But my parents did, to try to stop that singular drop that was going through.
Yeah, okay. Oh, no, we didn't go to that extent. But yeah, the other problem we had was like a little bit of water tried to come in under one of the doors.
Okay.
So we had to put a towel there or something. but it also filled in a couple of the holes in the backyard that butter has been creating. So, you know,
yeah.
once
It
again,
was kind of like neutral. Yeah.
For us personally, it was totally fine.
Yeah, and look, again, lots of people, because I've seen some other people in social media, it did impact some people quite hard. Fine.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. So I'm not minimizing that. I think it's just, if you looked at it on the overall and they said, of the 2 million people who are going to be impacted by this, you're going to get so heavily hit by this. Oh man, the reality is like, it was probably 10% of that actually that probably needed to prepare as overtly as they did. The problem is then 90% of people overtly prepare, and then that's where all your food goes away. That's where all your problems. Man, the amount of fuel stations before the cyclone came here, they closed because they all ran out of fuel. I was like, they all ran out of fuel. I was like, what's going on, man? Are you all going to be going on road tripping while the cyclone's going through? Like, you're all going to be at home. What is happening? So it was weird. Like, there was some weird, and look, weird but expected. This is an expected behavior, and this is even more meta. So we're talking about when you see news. Let's
get onto that after the Boostagram.
After Boostagram? Okay.
The other thing I was just going to mention was if no one had told me this was a Cyclone Alfred.
I thought it was been a storm.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. I thought it was just been a storm.
Wouldn't have even realised that it was
correct.
Anything larger than just a normal.
I would have been like, it's a really
extended,
real extended storm. Correct. Now, Boostagrams. So Boostagrams is a chance for us to have a bit of a, call out for the individuals who have been supporting the channel.
Did we have any this week? I'm not sure we did.
Let me bring it up. We had streams, I guess, again from
Lyceum. Brilliant.
Lyceum.
Thank you. Lyceum.
So there's plenty there. We did get the happy birthday one from Queen Mother.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that was 102 sats sent using Fountain. So thank you very much, Queen Mother. And then the rest have been just streams coming through from working hard or hardly working. Does a job equal meaning.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all those streaming sats as well.
That's very much appreciated. meremortalspodcast.com/support if you want to help us out financially. Help me fix my roof. The leak in my roof.
The leak.
And Juan's parents' glass table. That's bad stuff.
I think it was part little glass, like square or something like that. I need to get more of the details.
What was that meta thing that you?
So the meta view that I was going to talk about was with media or just information in general. Like when you absorb it, there's this the actual versus expectation. Yes, news will generally set the expectations to be way worse, just so that you can get more eyeballs and more people checking. And I was going to say, like, the reality often sits between like completely avoiding the news or the information and like whatever extreme the news and the information is setting. So it's usually in the middle, which is probably what happened. If I'd heard like, oh, there's a cyclone coming and this is going to be really traumatic. If I heard the opposing end, which I did have some people in like my social being like, this is just going to be overblown. It's going to be literally nothing. I honestly could have just gone to the middle of that and gone, okay, it's probably going to be a little bit of something. It is going to be windy. It's going to be rainy. I should prepare. I shouldn't prepare to be doing too much. Yeah, I'll probably lose power for 1 or 2 days. And exactly what would happen. Rather than it being, I'm going to have no power for 3 weeks or I'm going to have no food for 3 weeks. Like that's not what's going to happen. But then I guess the meta underneath that, I guess, is the expectation that I then should have to the general population was, for lack of, I guess, better word, like I thought they'd do better. Like my expectation was like, okay, why is everyone like panicking? Why is everyone reacting? Which is dumb because the actual reality is this is general human emotional, actions that we take. Like everyone takes. Again, even I, not consuming too much media, all of a sudden for a couple of days, I was consuming way more to kind of keep in track of what's going on. So if I'm doing that, of course, most everyday individuals are going to be even more heavily influenced or doing something about it. And that might mean, of course, everyone going out there and buying just a little bit extra food that they need or over preparing by buying 300 water bottles just in case they lose access to all of humanity for 2 years. So, something ridiculous. And so I met a guy like, why am I, like, why did I expect better of mere mortalites out there, given that we are mere mortalites? I have a lot of people who work in the Philippines, and over there, I chat to them every so often, and it's like, oh, yeah, we've got another cyclone coming through, and they have a cyclone or typhoon, let's say once a month during the like wet season, and I guess me sitting here, whenever they say like, oh, we've got another one coming through and whatnot, it doesn't register as much of concern because one, you're not in the location. 2, you don't really know how to associate with that much. Now kind of going through like a low-level cyclone, let's just say, they go through a typhoon that's like category 3, category 4, like monthly. Now I guess I'm like, damn, I'm like surprised that people are still working and like not panicking. But of course, for them, it's monthly. Like, you know, they might get this like 5 times a year. And for them, it's like, yeah, okay, that's just how you live. So, you know, if in Brisbane, hopefully not, but if we had like 5 cyclones per year, we'd very quickly just get very used to it. In that like, oh, yep, okay, cool. Here comes this. Okay, it's category 3. All right, we've got to batten this down. Make sure you bring things inside. Make sure you get enough food for about 3 or 4 days. Okay, cool, perfect. But then life kind of continues on. So it's a very much the underlying thing is, look, mere mortalites are going to react pretty... Don't have an expectation that they're not going to react emotionally. Like, we are all going to react emotionally. And for the general being, they're probably going to be even more so than I would normally expect.
Yeah, well, it's, fear of the unknown's the usual like main culprit. That's the scariest thing of all. It's the what ifs. Like, what could happen? Like, it could break in the glass, and then you have shards of trees flying in, followed with glass on your floor and stuff like that. And that's like the real scariest portion of it, I guess. Like, if there was an earthquake here in Brisbane, which Australia's like right in the middle of a tectonic plate. So I think I felt one earthquake in Mackay when I was there, and don't believe I've ever felt any in Brisbane my whole life that I've lived here. Doubt you have either.
No.
Yeah, if there was a 5 or a 6 on the Richter scale here, those aren't catastrophic, but still you feel them. People would lose their shit. For sure. Like that would certainly go crazy. But when you look at like the actual damage and everything that happened from this, did anyone die in this cyclone?
A few, Brisbane? But it was generally people from like in floodwater. So it was people in floodwaters who died. It wasn't.
And that was just because they didn't have access to, like, did they die from the cyclone, or they died from just not being able to get medical care?
No, they died. So of the ones I've heard, maybe they did more. But from the ones I've heard, it was people either trying to go through floodwaters and then getting carried away, or being like in the bush or some kind, floodwaters were around and they either thought they could get through it or swim across it or something to that effect, and it just floods them away.
Gotcha.
So like indirectly related, I guess I'd say, because that could happen if you went into a fast rushing water during a cyclone.
Sure. Yeah. You go into the ocean, get attacked by a shark, or get carried away in a riptide, that sort of deal.
But future view, because I guess the important. What are the learnings? What are learnings if you had to look at it again? Maybe either how you reacted, what you saw of people coming and talk to you about it, what actually happened, news in general, or the way that you take on just like information to what you actually do with it.
So I think there's a couple of types of media. So that'd be what you'd call the legacy media, because I'm not even sure it's mainstream anymore.
I was going to say, I think I'd call it legacy media, because I was going to say, it's not even mainstream media anymore. Would I even call it legacy media though? Because, and I say this because I'm like, I kind of find like blogs and maybe other sources of info that like almost now legacy media, and like news channels. I'm like, man, that's like even beyond like legacy media. There's like old school media now.
I'd lump those into the same sort of category. So when I say legacy media, I'm specifically thinking of free-to-air television in particular. Probably radio as well. Although I think there is Adam Curry keeps talking about, like, he thinks one of the things that'll come in the future, and he's usually right about these things, just too early, is the rise again of like local news, local podcasts, local like hyperlocal, as in your suburb sort of deal. And that's the kind of thing where, that would be actually much more of interest. The Morningside one, or the Gap one where Juan's at, or the one, West End, which gets really affected. They'd probably have different reporting on how to prepare, or what things you should be doing, versus like, your gym's going to be closed and you won't have access to certain types of food for a couple of days. So I think I don't know for sure because I don't use TikTok, but I get the feeling from TikTok, if you'd typed in like Brisbane cyclone, you probably would have got more here's how to prepare type things. Like I still imagine the the whipping up of fear would still be because that gets all eyeballs, that gets attention.
For sure.
The dude just being like, I think it's going to be a fine day. And, he could be the most technically correct and I guess non-technically correct as well, is not going to be the dude who blows up and gets the big views. No, it's going to be someone whipping it up and getting you stirred up about it.
Go back to the 2021 floods, and I don't use TikTok anymore, but when I was posting TikTok, my most watched video on TikTok, which got can't remember if it was 50,000 or 60,000 views, something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember
was
this one,
the 2021 floods, and it was something putting a shopping trolley across a roundabout so that people wouldn't drive over the roundabout because there was a lot of water over the top and it was going into their restaurant. So it was basically them trying to block people away from doing it. And again, that was the most watched thing out of the whatever 300 things I posted on there. No speaking, no nothing. But of course, it's the calamity, the potential issue, the whatever mess come from it. That's gets all the views. Similarly, if I just videoed that and maybe spoken and been oh, he's doing this because he probably wouldn't have gotten as much views as under script because who knows.
The thing that I find really a bit strange is, all right, so we like fear, obviously it captures our attention. We like and say this is just a general population. And you can choose to not participate in that, which is what we largely do nowadays. But there is a kind of certain extent to it. There's a level, and if you wanted to go to the full end, you would be more looking up videos of lightning strikes dude, flood water carries baby to death, and you'd be seeing gore videos, you'd be seeing death videos, you'd be seeing the most extreme shit happening. I got fed through 9gag. It was a GIF of a guy doing a parkour, and he was trying to do a somersault over this river thing onto a rock. Yep. And basically,
did he face plant it?
Yes, he does the flip. He kind of lands with his foot, but he slips under him, and so you just see the ragdoll smack his head into the rock, into the water. He comes up in the water, but you can instantly see he's wearing this white shirt, and he's just got this massive red section here, and it's you saw him hit his head, but why is the blood from here? In any case, just seeing that ragdoll made me I didn't need to see that. And I think I talked about the Brisbane stabbing video I came across on Twitter once upon a time, and it was just I didn't need to see that. And it makes me think those are the most fearful, gory, crazy shit out. But why isn't that getting shown on television? And you could say, because it's too extreme, it's not allowed. But if people want to see it, then it would be allowed. So obviously we don't want to see it that much, or it's not that captivating. And I don't know why that's the case. Because
I do think it's because take for instance,
I think there's a thrill in the fear as
well. But it's also going to be there's going to be some basis in reality that it could happen. I think that's the other caveat as well. So in news, it wouldn't have worked if they're gone, there's a category 2 at the moment. But what if it was category 7? Now, first of all, that's impossible. You can't do that. But they were there's going to be category 7 or 6. But what if this happens? No one's going to believe it. It's kind of okay, that's far beyond the realm of it actually happening. What's going on? If they said whole skyscraper is going to be flying through the air, I think there would be a little bit of a bullshit meter going to everyone being okay, that seems a bit extreme.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about though. I'm talking about people are worried about houses flooding and getting electrocuted maybe. So I've got to protect my power sockets. Let's just say something like that. I'm going to be out without food for a couple of days, and I could starve to death or die of dehydration. But you don't see then videos of people starving to death, dying of dehydration, as this is what could happen. And this is what you're afraid of. Here's a video of it happening to someone, or someone getting swept away in flood water, and you see them getting sucked down a drain pipe or something. You see the actual thing that you're scared of. There's no interest in that. People aren't going out and searching that up, or it's not being shown to them because the powers that dictate. And I think there's probably as much as there is a fear of the unknown, it's kind of a thrill in it as well. It's like something you can talk about, and it can be kind of fun. Like my brother's girlfriend, for her fear and uncertainty, I think there was a lot of probably like underlying fun of being able to talk about the cyclone with her family back in Colombia. It's like, the cyclone's coming.
It's coming.
So I think it's kind of like equal mix of fear and thrill, which is why you see all across legacy media and probably like other media as well, the overblown natures of it. Sure, it's what, like doom scrolling, doom porn, fear porn, that sort of stuff, the negative aspects, but it probably does provide people some positive talking points or something. It makes you excited.
Well, it's thrilling. There's the fear, which also creates whether it's negative or positive emotional state. It's like it's a heightened emotional state. But I also start to feel 2 points. One, just on the touch of media as well. It's like, yes, legacy media tends to do that with the maybe try to captivate with the negativity, so it brings in the eyeballs. But one of the things I'm starting to see more and more, and again, it's just in my little lens of the world of the type of podcasts and just say like streams or other places that I consume information from, a lot of them are starting to turn their way to things that are happening in the moment, but not localized, but just more broader, and talking about, generally tends to be politics, specifically Trump. And sometimes I can like, I'll listen to it, but it just starts to become more and more and more of in the moment, what's happening, the emotional kind of like feeling to it. And it tends to, it's probably why you, in like a more broader way, you read a lot of more existing, stood the test of time books that history aren't influenced by the in the moment now information that's available. Specifically, again, I've called him out, and I wanted to like back away to be like, sometimes Tom Bilyeu is quite good. Like I talked to you that he was saying like live streaming, and he does. But honestly, I'm going to say he doesn't Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I believe that he live streams 8 a.m. in Pacific time in the US. And maybe 20% of the time is like good. Like it's good, interesting conversations that he talks about. The rest is so hyper Trump media, what's happening at the moment information, that I gave it a couple more goes, and now I'm like, again, like I can't tune into this. Like this is so in the moment media that it's like almost looping back to legacy media. Yes, with a persona that I guess I'm interested in, but they're just talking about in the moment things that, look, some people would find of interest. Of course, it's probably finding interest and more people listening in a particular way. But I go in a similar way to media of the cyclone. It's like, if you didn't talk about this, would it really be this important? Is it really that important that, this executive thing got signed and this didn't happen, but then the next week it changes altogether? I kind of view it in the, like me as a person, you have to be kind of aware what you're consuming, because media in general, whether legacy or today's one, it's going to try to capture your attention, usually with fear or something that heightens emotions, and not always is that the funnest or best things that you want to be consuming, or really it being the most effective things that you want to capture. I don't think it's great effective philosophy or learnings for you to listen about every single thing Trump or Elon Musk is doing, or everything that's happening in this cyclone that just went through, or every single fucking hurricane, tornado that's happening in the world. Like that doesn't necessarily help you. Maybe, and this is the other point that connected it, I think that hyper-localization status or information in the future would be really powerful, because I can get behind that being a really, really key, like it would be informational, even if it's heightened or emotionally heightening things. At least the fact that it's connected to your area of the world, for whatever it is that you're looking, I think could be like really valuable. And so the example I had there was someone down the Gold Coast. They used AI to basically ask the question of, hey, the cyclone's coming. My house is this particular house. It's got this amount of height clearance from the ground. Based on the existing, wave titles and what could come, is it going to flood my property? And it gave, after lots of questions, kind of gave a bit of an indication on, okay, well, if this happens,
you're fucked.
It was like, if this happens at the best case, it'll only be about to here on the street. Worst case, you'll have about 20 centimeters of, 2 centimeters of water at the bottom of the house. And so this is obviously using AI, and there's got some error bounds here, but giving you a very hyper localized view of like, okay,
Yeah, sure.
now I'm informed. Like I'm really informed about this. So I know that worst case this will happen. Best case it'll be about this. Again, on average, you'll probably somewhere in the middle. And honestly, it was bang on with the middle. I think if everyone here in Brisbane had done something similar to that, either through AI or maybe done their own research, I think you would have found a more real, actual experience of what was to come, and people would have panicked less. Even me personally, I think if I'd applied that, I would have been more not expecting something different, but just I think I would have been more okay with what was about to come and plan for it. Maybe a little bit better. Maybe again, there's some things that I chance you don't know when a tree's going to snap or whatever else. You know, I didn't put the material properties of the tree into AI for it to tell me that, or the wind speed and whatnot. But you know, you get some influence of you. And honestly, I reckon if I fed it into any AI and been like, look, I have tall trees that are about 70 meters in my property, and they're, you know, whatever circumference, I'm going to have 100 kilometer winds, it'd probably be like, look, high probability most of them are going to snap and go on the floor. Okay, like I didn't probably need AI to tell me that, but to know what is realistically going to come, I think cuts through the noise of what media then generally influences you and able to like ragdoll you around with its heightening of emotions. I think that's kind of like my effective takeaway, effective philosophy of it. So try to find actual things. Look for first principles. Look into the reality. Don't get too heavily influenced into what media generally pulls you around with.
Yeah, my most influential piece of media that I've consumed was probably actually last night, where I was chatting with a guy, and he was telling me about a car accident he got in a year ago, where he was on an 80k hour road head on, and basically like this guy had just drifted on from his lane on this curve and hit him. And, you know, I was initially thinking like, you know, like it's probably like equal part fault. Like they probably both got a little bit too close, and it was actually grazing rather full head on or anything. And especially because he was super drunk when he was telling me about this. So I was just like, oh man, like can't take this guy's word for it. But he then brings up this video dash cam that he had. He's like, yeah, check this out. 20-second long, 15-second long video of him just driving casually as normal, and you know, bunch of other cars coming in the opposite direction. There was obviously no barrier in between them, and yeah, this car just, you know, comes. It's probably like less than 1 second from him seeing the car to the car smashing into him.
Wow.
And yeah, sure enough, this car just drifts off its lane, bam, hits him, and video cuts out. And I'd been thinking about this recently, kind of, but just seeing that made me go, first of all, like, oh shit, yeah, not this dude's fault at all. He had no time to react. There was nothing he could have done to prevent this, and like he almost died from it. You know, broken ribs, sternum, all that sort of shit. And I drive on roads like that all the time. There's tons of roads around here. Rarely are they 80Ks now, but plenty of 60s and plenty of ones with like trucks and B doubles and stuff. And a lot of those roads are either wider, so I can personally not be right near the center. I can stay off and give myself an extra half a meter, or there'll be 2 lanes, and so I could just stay in the left lane instead of the right lane. And a bunch of times I've been driving the right lane right next to traffic coming the opposite direction for absolutely no reason. And yeah, that piece of media is probably the most impactful thing I'll see all year in terms of actual behavior for me to change.
Yeah.
In terms of I'm going to drive more on the left side of the road.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't keep ultra hyper vigilant every time you're driving for every car that's coming at you. So you got to do those minor things that you can to put yourself out of harm's way.
Yeah. No, that's very true. I was going to be like, oh yeah, like, in that, I'll probably just focus on the media aspect of it. It's like, the more you know, it's the more you know, the more you're closer to what reality can be and the probabilities of that, then the more you have, or the more informed you are of what you can do. And like you say, look, what's the probability that if you were driving on the left lane versus the right lane, and here we're talking because it's in Australia, so we're driving on the left-hand side. Left lane, you're on the furthest away from the cars.
Correct,
right lane, you're like closer towards the middle. Honestly, probably the probability that you avoid a crash in that way is probably less than 1%, let's just say. But it's like, it's costing you nothing to remove that percentage of probability that, well, shit, if you get hit at those speeds, man, you're really stuffed. The other one though, because, you know, on the opposite end of the person drifting and whatnot, Have you ever drifted a car? Or have you ever gotten into like a spin or whatnot?
I drifted a haul truck.
A haul truck?
I can do better than
most.
most.
A haul truck, damn. Okay. Have you ever, in like a normal...
an actual car?
Yeah, like from water or something like that. So this happened to me
I've never hyperplaned
a week ago.
Anything, no.
A week ago it happened.
Yeah?
And it does, like, I've had aquaplaning, which is... I have had aquaplaning, like, man, so many times. And so this is interesting. If you've never had an aquaplane experience... There's two things that generally happen with people. You'll either overreact, which is overreact is you'll either try, well, you wouldn't normally do accelerator, but maybe you could do accelerator, or the worst, you'd hit the brakes, right? Do not hit the brakes when you're aquaplaning. What you generally want to do in those circumstances is you basically let it ride until you can catch the car, and then you catch it and you continue on. In that one, maybe what happened and what creates a lot of these issues with aquaplaning is if you've never experienced before, you get into this mode, you panic because you have no control of the car, you hit the brakes, that breaks the wheels, you continue to slide, and then you have no grip until you hit something.
That's what I did.
Now, the other day, I was like going around a corner, and it was wet. Went around the corner, and I actually felt the car go, and I was like basically over the lane, like not sideways. I was like, I wouldn't even say like 45 degrees. I'd say 30 degrees off the straight, and it probably was like that for maybe 2 seconds. And then you kind of like have to wait until you feel the traction of the wheels, and then boom, like kind of like put it back and then drive normally. So more to say in that is like, if you know or have experienced it a few times, then when it occurs, then you're like, okay, cool. I kind of, or at least intuitively know how to handle it. And I think it's all of those experiences, like getting yourself closer to moving away from the fear or the unknown or the influenced by media, influenced by the emotional heightened sense. Like, okay, no, if something like this happens, okay, you can do these things. When you're driving, there are very clear, easy things that you can do to be a little bit safer. You know, many, many years ago, lots of people didn't drive with seatbelt. And at that time, when seatbelts came in and whatnot, it was like, yeah, but why would you do that? Like, you know, yes, it's going to be worse if I get in a car crash, but I'll be in a car crash. It's like, no, actually, that's really, really important in the probability that maybe you will have a car crash and it will save you. Otherwise, you die and you go through the bloody front of the windshield. So kind of similar things there. It's like there's lots of little things that you can be informed that are hyper local to you, that it's not that you're being influenced. It's like, oh no, you can have the reality that's in front of you, and then stay away from the hyper media, hyper emotionally heightened things, which are actually probably not going to affect you at all. And those are the things to avoid. You know, there's the other learning. Like, try to focus in on the things that actually make a goddamn difference to you, like driving the right way, and then just avoid the other shit. There's no reason to pay attention. Like, doesn't matter about you knowing what fucking JD Vance eats for fucking breakfast, or like that he went to this state and they talk. Nah, I'm telling you, no one in Australia is going to be impacted by that. Not at all. Not even a single bit. Even if you think it does, it doesn't. It does not. Same if you want to hear about, a tornado went through America. Okay, for those people, hyper localized, man, that sucks. I'm sure there's a lot of things. There's nothing you have to do if you're in Brisbane to prepare for that. And to get emotionally heightened or concerned about that, if you're really not connected, it's just not worth it. Like, there's just no value at all. Where, like, you know, the important things is hopefully you're consuming maybe some information. I think that's like, oh shit, you know, if you do this little thing around how you're driving, or how you're
demonstrative,
or the really important stuff that fucking nobody cares about, because it's usually with media or information, it's the short, sharp, oh shit, tomorrow there's going to happen to you, and so you get really panicky about that. But no one cares about you've consumed this much sugar every day of your life for the last 7 years. Diabetes for you, motherfucker. It's exactly. But doesn't, you don't think about it, or training, or all that sort of stuff. No one bats an eye. Even when it gets talked about a lot, you're still like, I'm not as concerned about it because I'm really fearful about this thing that's going to happen next week. But in reality, 100% probability, you're going to die. There's a good there's a lot of probability.
I thought you were living forever.
Well, even if you live forever, either the Big Bang, the universe is going to crunch down, or the heat death of the universe is going to take you. We're all dying. There's no escaping it, Yeah, and then go down from there. There's like some good probabilities of like you're probably going to die from a car crash or a heart attack, and it's like, okay, there's lots of things you can do about that, and shit, go and consume that. Go and learn about some of the things that you can do to reduce some of those probabilities, as opposed to spending it emotionally heightened for other things that are just realistically not going to apply to you.
Yep. Good.
That's it. That's
good
the summary of
way
Me Immortal Lights. Do you have any comments at all from the live folks at all?
Good question. I'm not so sure, but we are live here 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday. That will be the case for this next week, and also the week after. I will publish it at this time. So yeah, the kind of coming week's going to be a little bit iffy, and then we should have a decent period of probably a month of being able to just be regular, and then that's when travel season starts for Karen and Juan. So we're going to be all over the shop.
Correct.
From kind of like May-ish onwards. So
That's right.
get ready for that, people. Get ready for that.
Yeah. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. There's going to be good times, and yeah, let's just, again, don't panic. Don't panic. For the Immortal Lights,
we'll be here.
We'll be back. We are around, but things are just shifting and changing and moving, so stand by.
Yeah, literally moving places.
Yeah. All right, Immortal Lights, be well. Thank you very much for tuning in, and for everyone being live. Bye now.
Bye now. Karen out. Bye.
Good.